Okay, today in this month's podcast for the month of September, I just want to complain. Many of my friends have asked for my thoughts on the privatization firestorm in Zambia. I just want to complain about the ineptitude and the poor quality of our public discourse in the Zambia. Many years after independence, our public discourse has not really improved. In the last few days, there is a firestorm now on the privatization program that was carried out by the MMD government of the Republic of Zambia 20 to 30 years ago. And that is the key talking point for a country in the 21st century that has taken up all space in the media, private and public and social media. I just feel sad. I feel sad about the lack of foresight and the lack of insight, the lack of quality and aptitude of our public discourse just among our people. I feel sad about that. Right now, the country of Zambia has failed to resolve the problem of mass unemployment for the last 25 years. Today's college graduates can't find a job in their own land. And the way for the current government to resolve the problem of mass unemployment is to launch government fish ponds and government gardens in Inchelenge, where my mom went to secondary school in the mid-70s. That is the answer for mass unemployment. In the last 10 years, our country has borrowed more than $15 billion for construction projects that are worth less than half of that amount. The reserves at the Bank of Zambia are depleted, and there are high levels of poverty. Zambia, despite borrowing these huge sums of money, the household poverty levels are going at 60.4%, far much higher than when Kenneth Kaunda had borrowed $9 billion and spending most of it on feeding and educating his own people. But today, the conversation for the future of Zambia is reduced to the botched privatization program from nearly 30 years ago. That's very sad to me, how we are framing the issues of our time and solutions to the most difficult challenges the country is facing right now is to look backwards 30 years ago and try to pinpoint one asset that we think was sold improperly. That's really sad. Not to be demeaning or to sound as if we know it all, but we must have fidelity to facts in our conversation, in our discussions. The government of the Republic of Zambia under Frederick Chiluba, with Edith Nawakwi particularly as the Minister of Finance, did not carry out privatization in Zambia, as we know it. There was no financial research conducted into companies on sale. The bids were not properly vetted, and they sold those companies like sales in a pawn shop. But Minister of Finance valikuwa tinibana market pameni balishcha tomato. If what she said on radio and TV was true this past week, how can you sell government property based on a single question chat with a consultant about the value of Intercontinental Hotel in Livingstone? And that makes you to go ahead and close the deal on behalf of the government. Were you guys dating, you and the consultant? It's not fair, to a country that 30 years after the fact, that's when you raise a quarrel with the people you are selling stuff to. That's not how we must frame the issues of our time or resolve the problems of our country. That's not the country. That's how not the country should reflect on those issues. The main issues are what the current administration has done to the watchers that Mwana Wasa left with us. Mwana Wasa left $5 billion in cash on hand and reserves in gold and at the Bank of Zambia, plus $6 billion in debt that we didn't have to pay. But the Patriotic Front government under Mr. Lungu has depleted all of that money that one was left and borrowed on top of that more than $15 billion and spent it, nearly all of it, on cuts, deals, and constructions. And what is even a bigger problem is the way they borrowed the money. It is also how they borrowed the money and where they borrowed the money. For example, although there must be questions on accounting for the proceeds of the Eurobond was a transparent debt. We can review its performance on financial markets in Europe. But the rest are subprime yuan bonds. It means the bonds were not on competitive terms. They were secured in dark corner meetings and are worth more than what we got out of them. They are worth more than what we got out of them. For example, a project could be worth $250,000. Then the secured yuan bond was issued for $1 million. The country needs to have people in leadership who know and understand how the global economy works, and particularly the simplicity of just how to use a calculator when you're dealing with national money. It seems to me that wasn't the case with the MMD government. Our government declared, another example I can give you just in the recent past, our government declared that each fire truck cost $1 million. And we know from insurance and the other, the fire tenders were actually worth $250,000 each. So the difference between the $1 million and the $250,000 is actually $750,000. The question we must ask our government is the difference between $250,000 and $1 million per fire truck, and there were 42. Shayakwi. If we took $750,000 and poured it into just one city that received the fire truck, we say, okay, on top of the fire truck, we are going to also provide this $750,000 into the economic activities of the city, into the economic and social activities of the city. We can uplift the standards of the people. We can lift the standards of living people. Those are the questions I believe that we need to be asking today. Or must we wait 30 years from now for us to have another Nawakwi to come and ask those questions? They borrowed mainly from subprime yuan bonds lenders and spent most of the money on projects that are worth far less than the money they borrowed. That's where our eyes need to be looking. That's where the money is. The money and capacity that Bonawasa left has been squandered. We need to change players so that we as a country can audit, investigate, and find out where each loan came from, how it was used, who took what amount, and where the money went. Why have we spent $15 billion and the youth are still unemployed? Why are our people only spectators of constructions in their own land? So borrowings, why the majority of so much borrowing? So why are people still in abject poverty? Where did the money go? That is the biggest question of our time, and that's the biggest question of this election. We need that addressed in the Zambia. Must we wait for another Nawakwi 30 years from now, from today, to find out where the money went? If you fear privatization, it's a distraction. People who know anything about money will tell you that the ignorant and embarrassing government did not even carry out privatization. They auctioned companies to foreign firms. That, in applied economics, is called foreign direct investment and the externalization of income. They sold the mines and other industries to foreign companies, and the rest is history. We, Zambia, has paid a heavy price for ukubika abatutu na bapwaka abashayishiba ukubomfya kakileta kuntashi. Must we continue on this path? If a few Zambians were lucky to even own some of those companies sold by the MMD. That's what privatization actually is. It is a transfer of public companies into private ownership. And privatization means Zambians, individuals within Zambia, instead of the government starting to own and running those companies, those individuals take those companies, buy those companies from the Zambian government and begin to run them for the good of the citizens. That's how the market economy works. That's not a scandal. That's what capitalist market is all about. Yes, anti wanawakwi na abapi baneri bepa TV the other day, bali sabaila sana na apprentice degree ya 19 posokulu from the University of Zambia. The real question is, was she using a calculator as a Minister of Finance? Did she read the bids? What criteria other than the word of mouth from my estranged brother-in-law did she use to select the bidders? Those are the critical questions we need to ask for Zambia. Nangu mwamupatashani umunenu. Nangu nifia wala da kumshikiri mayatu kufika mala yambushu umukoshu umuntu. You cannot pin the failure of an entire government to an individual who was in the private sector. No. We as a whole country must refuse to accept this type of conversation and this type of discourse. Let us change the key players in the management of our economy. Let us, once we do that, let us now audit what has been done in the last 10 years and find out where the money has gone. Why the money that was borrowed has not moved an inch in the levels of poverty, has not improved our education system. We have structures built by other people. And now the owners of the money have even sponsored our government with armored vehicles. Armored vehicles that are supposed to be in the armed forces now have been given to the police. What are they going to do? They are going to provide military support against the citizens to secure the money they loaned our country. That's what we must wake up to that. And we must be vigilant to see that.